Hello, once again, YouTube. My name is James PFP. This is the Banjocast. No banjo tonight. Too late. Early. You can see on the clock right there. I'm trying to remember what my key presses will be to change from scene to scene. That's the one I want there. That's the one I want there. Cool. I'll try to do it blind for a while tonight. Not expecting that to work out, quite honest. Pulling the chat up. Could have done that earlier. I had a quick look before I started streaming here to see what was coming up over the local horizon. It's nothing much. So I don't expect to have to pop open a dump 1090 screen too often. But I'm keeping an instance of my radio listening. And I might well stop tracking local aircraft. I say local, I mean ones that are passing close by. It may stop doing that in favor of a radio broadcast of some kind. All depends. Might want to listen to the weather for a few minutes tonight. I think I might even be able to do that in the background while I'm doing the other. Well, I don't know. Tricky memory usage and all that. Hey, what am I doing here in Blender? I've been going through these various scenes, a few frames at a time, setting up some very basic animations. Knowing that I only need to have visual elements to add it in rarely, and I don't want to do it on the original image. I want to add an overlay. Pop it on, pop it off. I like that. This one has an animated arrow. This one highlights this. And then there'll be a text block somewhere on screen as well. And I've got a bit of room above and below the image. To add in text above, over here on the side, below. Seeing as this is animated too, I can also, I'll quickly show you this now. Grab on the Y. I can change the length of this animation by now grabbing this and overlaying it. And go right to the end. But I'm only planning to do it for a short period of time. A series of quick blinks. Draw the eye to it. And you can see how the animation's still running. Once it gets to a certain point. I can tell it to stop too. I might want to actually hard limit the animation. So that the Blender doesn't have to keep calculating what the animation points are. If I go to where that is, I find it all the way here, and the keyframes which set it are there. Does that highlight them both? Yep, I get them both there. This is the maximum amount of time I'd ever want the animation to run. You can see here there's one frame and then the next frame. I'm going to say that this is the hard limit. And there's a modifier here doing the cycles motion. Can restrict the frame range. And I'll get the frames in range now. The first frame is this one. Well, the last frame, 3142. So restrict frame out, start, end. 3142. And start was, well, if I go back, it'll bring me back to the last keyframe and the keyframe before it. So this is the real start. Whatever this frame number is, 2803. So now the animation is prevented from being calculated in Blender for the rest of the time that it's required, which is not very much. It's only really required for this short sequence of several frames, and you can see that it blinks on and off pretty quickly. And then once it gets to this point, it ceases to be animated at all. It's stuck at the value that it's at until the end of the animation. So I could try this just to illustrate what I've just done. And I'll scroll through my mouse, or sorry, not my mouse, my key arrow. It's the right arrow. Don't like where it is. Maybe want it to overlap very little. I'm looking for 730, and then it goes to 0 there. So I'll let it go to 0 this way. I'll snap it that way, and then this one. This one, there's a complicated set of basically crossfades being applied using a mask. I did this in the last set of streams. Underneath, there's an additional face mask layer. Above that, a mask transformation, and then a Gaussian blur to soften the edge. The blur is controllable. Currently got it set to a wide blur on the sides, but I could blur it even more than that. The more I blur it, the more calculation time is required. So it's sometimes nice to be able to turn the blur off or turn it really small and reposition. How would I reposition it now? Well, I'd use this control to fine tune it. And I can also rescale it in much the same manner. Both of these are now hidden. In fact, all three of these are hidden, and the only thing which is used is the final pass from this combination of strips as a mask for this one. That's under this and modifiers. Set it for a mask with strip as input, Gaussian blur. Can also use a mask directly, which I've done just a little bit further. We'll get through this one first. What I'm trying to draw attention to here, and I'm going to probably take another smack at this particular cat. Grab Y. I'm going to move this up here. The whole idea that I'm looking at here is that the original image has a kind of high contrast point with this in the front of the frame, this stuff in the back of the frame, like in the background. And the contrast has an edge line like that. The kid's arms kind of parallel it, but it's offset and the camera's peeking over this way. And likewise, the shaded figure is moving up forward from center frame to the side frame. But I got to thinking about what was true in the contrast of the image. So this first one is being multiplied by a full value, and this multiplied on top. I could set this to add. It'll do much the same thing. And then this one is a gamma cross at 50% with the original image. Once more, and this won't necessarily do any big favors to this image, but if I were to multiply it again, I'm currently set to add. I could also subtract it. Subtract away the yellow light, in other words. And if I were to subtract it, I could subtract less. So that's why I say I think I might want to spend a little more time trying to show where the emphasis is in the image. Here's one that uses 3 sets of masks. Excuse me. The masks are like this. There's one for this red layer. The color is red, but then there's a blur being applied to it to blur it. And I'll hide these other ones first. It's on his head. And again, it's the same as the red one that was on the bandolier. But the blur I'm using, in fact, right now I'm not even doing any blur. I can make it softer in one direction, maybe a little longer in the other. Now my calculations increase accordingly as to calculate the blur. At the same time, I've got another one, this color green, and it's being applied only to the people in the pews. I'll hide the other one. People in the pews glow like that. How am I doing that, you might ask? Well, I created a series of masks which are being applied to these layers, so that the color of these layers is only being applied to the areas I've marked, pretty much. Again, I did that in the last episode. And there's a third one on the cross. And I can blur both of these as well, and I have already blurred them. I've blurred them in a different way than I've blurred that one. And the calculation that I used, like 13 and 7, that's just a wild guess. I would think that might be better with like a tight blur. Maybe a wider one than that. But square shaped. And these guys currently got them, well, the maximum I think is 1 because it's an ad. I think I'm going to spread them out more and tighten them up on the up and down. I'll show you what the masks look like. Since I did spend time in the last episode, I might as well. What is the word? Reinforce. I've got a series of masks here. And what I've done is it's specific frames. Like 4601, I'll have a frame to look at, 4601. 4601. For example, in this still image, I identified that there was this object to be masked. This object to be masked. I say object, I mean this thing, whatever that is. This part of the image, these pixels. And then this one, which is the really convoluted crowd one, and which includes this piece of negative space where I had to use like different layers. I had to use one large cutout first and then remove a piece of the larger cutout that I didn't need to get the glow around this guy by himself in this group, but using one long connected closed shape. So the masks can be additive. And it doesn't matter which one now I have selected. These are already calculated and are in use, right? So any other time that I need to do this, though, I only need to jump into that dialogue and pull up a single frame on a certain part of the composition to use as a guide and get what I need. Still images make this really quick, since I don't have to worry about tracking motion for frame to frame. Like if his head was moving around as he's delivering the bloody sermon, I'd lose my mind trying to track that for no good reason other than to make a joke about it. Better to use a still image. Picture is worth 1,000 words and several hours on YouTube. That's one way of looking at it. I have to do the same thing in this one, but this one is more convoluted. I've got a plan for this one that I'm going to get back to once I've had a chance to go dig in some source material. This one has a joke in the audio. Shooting the rodeo. Yeah, it's an RLM plug. I think what I should do here is I owe a debt of gratitude to some degree for the wording of that line, shooting the rodeo. I'll write it in the text chat, anyone's listening. Shooting, ooh, wow, I've been using caps too much tonight. Shooting the rodeo. Hey, I got an idea earlier. Oh, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Thank you. Anyway, I'll have to check that later. If I could save my chat log, oh wow. That would be nice. Damn, I wouldn't have to film it anymore. Talking to self. Friday night. Right? Friday night is alright for a lot of things. Nothing on the go. Not tracking anything. I'm going to keep moving. Shooting the rodeo. It's so simple, I might as well add in a text layer. It's called, there's just a bare ass Blender text layer. I'll use as many different kinds of strip or effect as I can imagine. Shooting the rodeo. Snap it to there, grab the end, grab it and manually size it. The whole idea of this is not only to have something that says text in it though. It's currently set to alpha over, which means it's being used as a mask in its own right. That Blender only considers the parts which have been cut out and filled with white to be relevant to this image at this moment in time. I'll show you what I mean. I currently align it by center and bottom, but I can offset. And move it, and you can see through it, or not through it, but past it. You can see through the holes in the text. I'll go 0.42 for now. Size of the text, I'll double it. I'll treble it. Quadruple it. And I wish I could just grab it up sometimes and put it where I want it, but using the numbers to do so is not necessarily a bad thing. You can be pretty precise with the numbers. Most numbers in Blender are a floating point, meaning it's considered as a decimal figure, essentially, and it rounds to certain times you'll find a rounding error. That's about the only issue I've ever had with it. At certain times you will find a rounding error, which is easily correctable. You can be pretty precise. Imagine what I mean. Say I've got something which is over 100 frames, maybe 200 or 300 frames, but I want it to count one, like frame for frame. There will be times where it rounds, like at 33, 34, 35, 133, 134, things like that. You'll start rounding errors. You'll get 134 and it'll hold over until 136. The hell, that's what it is. The text could be anything. I should actually go looking for a Rich Evans quote. Is Rich Evans right here? How about that? Even better. Oh yeah, yeah, yes. Center bottom wrap width. I can add a drop shadow. I don't know if this is actually going to be too big. And I can manually set the color here. This maybe only needs to be about that big. I'm thinking about other Rich Evans jokes I could play here too easily. If I put that up there, I don't really need the drop shadow. It won't matter. You can see it, but it's very, very... It's not necessarily too terribly evident. And there's already a sense of a separation against the black background. Adding shadow, nothing. But I put that back down to like 0.37. And you can see the shadow against the ground behind it. It matters more there, right? This is a joke which is going to be played at the actor's expense, and it, again, requires a little bit of digging around before I do anything else with it. The last thing I did last night was this one. Animated words. A running CNN gag. At least that's the plan. And here we're back to another I don't quit. I think is the actual line. No room for quitters, I don't quit. So I don't know. I don't think I'll be using the yellow at all, other than as a reminder that there's a line here, and roughly where it is on the timeline. I could even be a little more precise with it to get the right timing, because I don't need to see it anyway. I picked a funny frame, but I got a good one. Look at the reflection in his badge. If his badge is pointed that way, what's the camera reflecting off? What's the light that the camera's detecting? And all that light in this outdoors too. Ooh. Yeah, I guess with all the light outdoors, you need a lot of light indoors, don't you? Blinds mostly closed. Yeah, reasons why it wasn't going to get an Oscar. This guy could have got an Oscar till he went with the whole blood ring bit. Once he got to the blood ring bit, it was like, there goes the Oscar. Running CNN gag. Really calling to me. What's the running CNN gag going to be? It's about you know what. It is about you know what. Gives me something to think about. I'm going to be taking a very quick break, and I won't be long. I'm going to set up some music too while I do it. There can be banjo, just not live banjo, not tonight. What's this one then? That's me. I'll play that one.
Thank you, Peter. As they say, it's good enough for government work, right? This is a song called Straighten Up and Fly Away. Straighten up and fly right. Ain't cool down, Papa, don't blow touching, but it sounds like a lot walking. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and stay right there. Straighten up and fly right. Say cool down, Papa, don't blow your top. Fly right. Thank you. All right, Ron. Another cover coming at you. Watching it come on,
What balls he has. Wow! I'll save the other ones for later. Actually got a few claps there, Lynn. It's a good thing I had a penicillin shot before the night started.
Thank you.
Really good one.
For years, I survived on a 4-string banjo.
And yeah, I'll leave the rest of the story for later. Whoo! Thinking about this CNN gag, and I'm thinking about where I might want to look for material for the CNN gag. I got a really nice picture here, which I can replace for the length of that. with, say, another animation. Just use the same masking tools I've been using and get the mask to limit the animation that I want to display. And I can shrink that and make it fit to the mask as well. I'll worry about that when the time comes. So the question is, where do I get the material for CNN? But I'm gonna let that percolate just a little longer. This one then, I don't quit. Any volunteers? I certainly want to indicate that the voice acting is artificial by putting the text up on the screen. It's pretty short. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 35 frames for I Don't Quit. Ten for the first, 10 for the second, 10 for the third. I was thinking briefly about doing the work here, but I'll go over to default instead. Could take a full copy of this one, but I'm only going to copy the settings. I'll call it I Don't Quit. I'm closing off the ones that I don't use or I'm not currently using. Top perspective, top ortho, adding a camera. I'm going to save myself a step. Make the location 10. Go to the camera settings, set it to orthographic. Hit numpad 0. So I'm looking in the camera view. Now add a text object. Capital I. And I'll give the object a whiteboard association. And I'm going to call it EYE exclamation mark. Grabbing it and holding Control, Shift D, bringing off a second one. Don't. And then Shift D, holding Control. Quit, exclamation mark. I'm renaming each of these to keep them straight. They can grab there, grab on the Y, grab there. I can fine tune these as well. I can set it to center, for example. Set them all to center might be better. Let's grab and move them back. Ooh. What a marvelous time for a cup of tea. I like to let it steep though. It might be a half hour downrange from actually sipping at it. Pretty low altitude there. Wonder how far out he is, hey? This thing doesn't track me. Oh, it's leaving. It's departing. I don't quit, he says. I'm going to use the slightly higher resolution one. I like the look of it better yesterday when I was doing this. I'm now going to do a shorter animation with this one. Setting this up in advance basically for when I'm ready to render. Create a folder first, and it's I don't quit. It's named the folder. And then IDQ and an underscore for the file name. But I'm only part of the way done here. I need a 35 frame animation. Very, very short animation. And basically at 11 frames, this thing becomes visible. So at 10 frames, I'm going to set that one to invisible. And then at 11 frames to visible. 21 frames. At 20, I set don't to invisible and keyframe them. Forward 1 frame, set them to visible and keyframe them again. Get the next one. The next one I think I want to have pop up a little bit faster. So I'm going to break my timing and keyframe it a frame or two in advance of where it normally would be. And I can extend the end. Oh, shoot. I could extend the end of it in the other window. You get the most out of each word. But before I'm ready to go, I have to render this. F3. Bufferpish, renders, stills, sniper elements, don't quit, all 35. Back to video editing. Shift A, add a movie. But I'm gonna go into the elements here and I don't quit. Oh, not a movie. Shift add image. Much better. I don't quit. All 35 of them. Hit A to get them all. There are the 35. Okay, so I pops on the screen there, but the word has already been spoken. So I want I to pop on the screen more or less when the word is being spoken. Start frame, bump it back. Even one more would do. And then it releases. Holding shift to just get a few extra frames there. I'll set this to add for a moment. Almost passable like that. And again, if I set this to subtract, I get the reverse. Hang on a minute, what happens if I set it to multiply, do you think? Multiply by 0 is 0, multiply by 1 is the same. I get a cutout of what the video is underneath. And if I were to drop the opacity, I get a little of both. So if I were to duplicate that layer and set the duplicate to add, or to subtract, I still get extra image data to work with. Same with this part. It's adding to the blue. I could go overdrop too, because it's at a this one here can actually be hidden, I believe. Oh, no, it can't. I want them both. If this one is hidden, how much does it add? Quite a bit. Because it's multiply. Playing around with it a little bit here, see what I can get out of it. Currently set to add. So it won't matter if this one's here or not. Oh, it does matter. can multiply gamma cross. Alpha over is the same as overdrop pretty much, but it matters more for the alpha channel. Overdrop works with masks really well. Crossing and replacing is cross-fading. Gamma crossing in this case is going to be really sharp due to the fact there's not much gamma in the image. But I am looking for something which will pop the text out while giving me something to play it against. Might be wondering what I'm planning to do here. You can see there's no difference in the images with this first one, so I don't need to animate the top one. I'm thinking around about 0.443 is as much as I want, and I want it totally on screen by the time that occurs. So I'm going to keyframe it there and at the beginning at 0, fade it in as if it's a dark cloud. And release it quick. What? No yoga pants. It's the text for that one. How old are you, boy? And I think the answer is 30. This is a text layer. Yeah. Upon further consideration, I think it's probably better up here. And offset a tiny bit that way. And this also works with the same overdrop alpha over method. You can also add it or multiply it. And if multiplying, then won't want shadow if I'm using the add method or subtract. If I use subtract, add a glow or blur, use subtract again. I'm going to hide that one for now. Copy and pasting it over. Now when I duplicate this one, I hit Y to keep it in the same track, unhide it, set it to add. Even better, I'll set it to overdrop. Now I'm getting the faintness of the shadow is coming from the underlying layer. Could do that. something like that. The glow doesn't, the blur doesn't appeal to me. Grab on the Y and move it up one. This blur 5 and 7 is pretty tight, but it isn't enough to give this a drop shadow feeling. I'm going to add a second blur. Also set to subtract. And this one a little bit wider. I'll set that one to 9. Set that one to 11. Now what I'm getting is a double blur. One subtracting from the other one. And this is the wider of the two. So when this goes on top, it becomes a little more well defined. And if I were to copy these numbers, 9, 11, doubling them up doesn't necessarily improve results. Anything else I might want to do with that? If I animate the top layer of text, I'd be better off animating this layer first, then duplicating it and putting it on top afterward. Because the blurs need to follow the animation. And essentially this is how lightsabers are done. By adding one blur and then another blur and then another blur. To get a tightness with the glow, as well as spreading it out. Arrow already done. Charming redneck joke. Good morning, Mr. Williams. Yeah, the running joke in this one too. I seem to think that this guy looks like Robin Williams from time to time. Maybe it's in my head. Maybe. Maybe it ain't. Maybe it ain't in my head. Shooting the rodeo. I also got some jot notes here that I've been taking down during the day and evening. Things to say or things to get back to. I came up with another Bo book suggestion. Came up with a really good one. I'll put it in the text. Dot. Bo book suggestions. Yeah, if you don't get the suggested book there, you might want to think about it a little. Think about it only a little; it'll come to you. It's one of those books. I made a trip out of the door this morning too. I had a good morning. In fact, I shot some footage, which I've been needing to get back to between one device and the other. I'll probably do that a little bit later, if and when I take a shortish break without running out the door. Tea's soon going to be ready. I'm getting antsy for it now. Getting antsy. Getting antsy. Antsy. What do we got going on here? Good morning, Mr. Williams, and this is the first time that this occurs. So I need to do a counter, but the good news is I've already got the numbers done. I've got 200 numbers, which I'm using already, and which I can use again at other points, like here, to count the first time. I got a good mind to put some text on the shirt. I'm with Mork. That's the text that's coming to me. But also a text card of some kind which needs to go in the bottom here. I've got a specific video. I've got a specific project here for single still elements, just called graphic elements. That's how I did the cutout. And it's how I'm going to be doing most of the graphic work here. You can see I've already got a text object created. I'm going to duplicate it and change it to what I need. With quotation marks around it to indicate sarcasm. Some of us get it, some of us will not get it. 1.73, take a guess. Hey, a little smaller than that. 1.37, how about that? It's not, I got a real weird fascination with numbers. I'm going to explain it to the chat. Anyone might be listening. Here's a rule of thumb I have noticed. Safe primes make for good proportions. 3, 5, 11, 13. Is that a safe prime? No. 19. No. 2 prime number plus, no. But I'll mark the ones that aren't safe. 23. 29 and a pinch. Again, not safe. 7 is a safe prime. 37. Safe prime. Oh, what am I saying? Isn't. Uh, 73. 19, 37, and 73, though, all have one thing in common. In terms of they're not safe. Not safe primes, but linked to algebraic harmonic. With stars. 19 equals 2 times 3 squared. Plus 1. 37 equals 2 squared times 3 squared plus 1. 73 equals or 3, 2 times 3, 2 plus 1. And not only will I want this is still a little bit big, but as I say, I've got some numbers I can look at here now. 11 maybe. Gonna bump that over on the side a little bit. I'm also gonna put it in the center more. I could put it down here, but I don't intend to project it on the screen at full resolution. I intend to put it in at... This one's going to be a smaller card. That's what I'm trying to really spit out here. I want to change some of this. The line spacing needs to be bigger. Letter spacing could be a little wider. Is that everything I want? No, it isn't. Shift duplicate. I want a colon. Proper colon. Doesn't have to be last name Powell, but I'll take a colon. So now I've got both of these elements on screen. I'll render a still image. That looks good to me. Under renders, under stills, under elements. So it's good morning counter. Save as image. Again, back to video editing. And this joke starts as soon as the number does. Going to add an image. Pop a layer. Sniper elements. Good morning, Mr. Williams. I'm going to hand define the length, since it's going to be a joke for the length of the clip. I do want it to be set to add, and I also want it to be projected at its original value, like its original size as I rendered it. I'm with Mork. I definitely got to go over here somewhere. Image offset. I could put it up or even down here. Down would work. Negative 103. But it needs to come over here more. Look for good placement. And as I've been doing in other ones, I'm going to be using this mostly as a guide for the shadow. And I'll be getting it by using a glow or a Gaussian blur. Subtracting it. It only needs to apply on the top part of the image this time. Doesn't matter in the bottom. The blur 5, even a little bit wider than 5 would be good. 7 and 11 maybe. Maybe 5 there would do better. And now to get the text, duplicating, making it visible. Now as the drop shadow is very, very subtle around about here, but darker in around the dark areas of the image. And as I did with the last time, I'm going to delete this for a second. If I want to move the location of the text and the shadow, I have to do that. I do that with the bottommost strip and then duplicate that to get the white afterward. So this positions the shadow first using the same image data twice. I think that will look better. Wherever the last part of that is, right about there, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The number is only going to be on screen that long. And the number in this case is the number 1. I'm going to drag this directly in using the stills. Sniper elements. Oh wait, no, where did I put that? In our new folder? Yeah. NC001. Same length as the last one, or same endpoint, not same length. Image offset. Set it to add for now. I'll position the image, the number where I want it. Looks like 720 will do really nicely. Hey, what if I would want that bigger? I could retransform it, but then the transform layer would need to be applied on top again. So I transform this image once, then blur it, and then transform the image again to get the 1 at the right scale. Here's a fun one. I need to make the mask animate during the length of this part of the animation. This I'm going to do in another video. Although it's an easy enough trick to do it. If I hide this, it'll be a little more easy to see what I'm going to have to do. Some of these I need an animated mask essentially, or to put it another way, I need a bunch of different masks. But it's around this part of the image. So there, yeah, there. Covered. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. So all of those images will have that Guinness sign highlighted a little bigger with the red outline. In medias res, number 2, right? It's a running joke there. Telephone. Anyone's watching and can't see what the chat says over here. I've been having some fun with numbers in the chat. Numbers, telephone, that's why I'm thinking about it. I'm a bit of a numbers freak. I will freely admit that. Oh, and I made a mistake in the last one. Now that I see it, it's a tricky. It's 73 equals 2 to the third power times 3 to the second power plus 1. So the harmonic which drives these three prime numbers, 19, 37, and 73. I can delete that one. Ha ha ha. Wonderful. The thing which defines those three numbers as prime is the plus 1 on the end. And everything else is plus, is plus 1. 2 to the second power. 2 to the third power is plus 1. And then the 3 squared stays the same. 3 squared plus 1 plus the, you know, like, it's weird. Tea time? Yeah, it must be. Is that so I can sit down here and like concentrate? Oh, look, another CNN joke. With CNN actually on screen. Perfect. I skipped that one. I skipped that one, and I need to do text for this one. What was that one? Oh, right, I got it. That's a weird image, that one. I mean, you can see around it too what I was adding on. But I don't take away too much from the color nor the sense of what is there. You're looking through a pair of sunglasses, a really dark pair of sunglasses. Either way, look. Funny how we managed to frame that just so. I guess that's what they spend the big bucks for. But it wasn't winning any Oscars. Saying I got into the grocery store this morning. The way the news was talking about the weather, I'm still frankly amazed that they played it up as bad as it wasn't. It wasn't exactly terrible. It's the sort of tempest in a teapot kind of reaction, I guess. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. Oh, give me a second. Let me do this another way. Got oranges which are better eaten cut up than peeled. Curious fate from the morning. I'll sit down and consume an orange monkey-like. Orange pieces. CNN joke. That one is giving me lots of pause for thought tonight because it's a good time to go looking for it. I was thinking earlier perhaps getting stuff from around about the time that the movie was being published, promoted and put onto big screens. And I thought, well, I could look for CNN's greatest hits for the last this amount of time the movie pretends to cover. There's a goddamn gold mine there. All this shit you lapped up without even thinking twice. All the shit they spewed out without even thinking twice. And they're pissed off over the EPA. Whoa. The internet's all abuzz about the super long ass stream last night with Andy Worski. Totally is easier this way. Sure, I get a little more on my face. There's no biggie. But yeah, the Worski stream. I started listening and damned if I could actually sit through it. And it wasn't because of anything that Spencer asserted. It was I got tired of listening. I got tired with the one word, deracination. I'm like, my God, man. When it comes to that, you gotta check your own fucking baggage, dude. Is that how you get the raisins out? Deracination? Or is it raccoons? Incredibly unnuanced discussion. Found myself making a unintentionally witty remark tonight. To wit, many is the Rhodes Scholar that I've observed do the same thing. What was that? Using their hands to talk. Someone else in the chat at the time pipes up, hey, do you mean Rhodesians? I didn't, but now I do. To admit and to admit frankly, British Airways, huh? $19 being negative, 20 minus 1, which is a fifth, right, of 100. And then these two other fractions pop up as prime numbers, which are themselves, well, greater than a third, but less than a quarter. And you double it. You double the 37 to get the other one. "37 times 2 minus 1. Same difference. It's like a twin prime in and of itself. 71 and 73, also a twin prime. But I think 73 and 37 belong together more often than not. Funny things to think about while having a cup of tea. I devoured that orange. It was really good. What to do, what to do. Well, yeah, maybe I'll do this one tonight and have it done, since it is a whole lot of red to be cut out of this part of the image. What I need to do is to get a series of frames here when there's very definitely the sign in and when the frames are, so I have to make a little note here. A frame and file name listing. So it's 21 is the file name. They're already listed specifically. This will be easy. So it's 21, however many there are in the list. And the first one pops up at 8399. Next one. Very small move, as you can see. At 8459. This matters because the mask needs to know what keyframes to jump in from one to the next. Eight, 4, 9, 9. Eight, 5, 3, 9. This one won't matter because it's not on there. I still have to keyframe it. And what I'll do is I'll keyframe it off the frame down here somewhere. Hey, we're back. 5, 7, 9. I guess we can guess where the next one is. And the next one. 8, 6, 5, 9. Oh, and here is another one. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frames of animation to do for the mask. And I'll want to have a reference image on each of those 8 frames. Might as well go back to the first one before I start this process. I got a timeline down here. I'll be jumping back and forth between movie clip and video sequence editor. You can see the last mask that I did. I want another mask. So I'll be adding a new one by hitting create new mask. But now I need to add some new footage. You can see we've only got these 2 images added so far. I'm going to save this even if it has no users and add the next one. And it's 21, the first track, this one. And 21 starts on frame 8399. Which is the frame we're on. I might as well do this using Blender. Add a circle. It's added where got added where my 3D cursor is. So if I put the cursor where I want it, this circle, and add a circle, I get the circle. Right where I want it. No clicking, no fuss, no bother, no hassle. Just the straight dope. Okay. I want to select all those points and scale them. Oh, it's not letting me scale them. Are they locked in some way? Mask display, overlay, yeah. Scale, not really working for me. Won't let me change it. Transforms, scale. What if I get them all? This is using a Bezier spline as well. I think maybe I'm going to change this. Delete these. I'm going to call this mask as well. I'm going to follow the naming scheme that I've been using, which is to give it a name based on the frame number. Or the, not frame number, but the scene. So that was for scene 3, this is scene 7. This will be scene 21. And I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 to make it cyclic. And now I can get a little more picky and spend my time with it. Right clicking to select the point that I want to work with. I hear maybe what you're thinking. Hey, what happens if I want to add in more points here because you're running out of them as you take your time around? Well, I hold Control and click for a new point. A left click. Right click to select, left click to accomplish some action or position something by releasing. Ooh. This one here would be want another one, yeah? So there's the first pose. There is the first pose. I'm going to select them all. The next pose is going to be at 8459. So at 8458, I want this to be in the same position. So I'm going to go 8458. Grab it and snap it. I think that should keyframe automatically there. And I can also 8458 bring that footage forward and grab, position it. When I position it, it counts as a keyframe. So now I could go back to the previous one or that one. 2 keyframes. Go forward a frame, 8459. I'm actually going to reset that back to where it was, 8399. And make sure that it's saved. Now I need the next one, 21B. And that one is going to be at 8459, where I currently am. You see where it jumps, this shape. And now I can do what I've been doing in Blender since September. Anyone who might have been watching since then, I can now accomplish the transformations by a variety of ways. I can scale this. Oh, it doesn't want me to scale the mask at all. I'll move the points if it don't want me to scale it. Should be able to rotate them too. Oh. I'm going to box select that and change it to a vector. Because I could do these all as, how you say, could do all of these as Bezier curves too and get a smooth corner with handles and the like. In fact, I might even look at doing that as soon as this set of animations is close to done. Next point is 8498. You can see this is moved. I'm going to select them all. Grab, move it up here. And I don't care if these move around or jiggle or drift a tiny little bit while the frame is holding. All the rest of the information will be holding. These are flipping once every second or so. So a little bit of jitter or variation will only add to the sense of it being animated. Animated mask not working too well. Or maybe I got to do the same mask 3 or 4 times and have it pop up. I could do that. It'd be a bit of a pain. Means I got to do a bunch of different color clips. So this should be this one. At 8458. At 8459. Grab. I didn't keyframe it. I couldn't have. Must have forgot to keyframe it. I can set this to go auto keyframe as well, which would be nicer. That probably tells me what happened there. I'll be a little more careful about that this time. There is auto keyframe settings. It's actually visible right here. Automatic keyframe for objects and bones. Hit that button. Away you go. But I don't mind being reminded that I gotta do it myself either. One extra key press, but all the satisfaction. All hit I to keyframe them. Yeah, that's better. 8499. You can see it maintain its position from the last time since it was last keyframe here, but I'm going to hit I again to keyframe it again. Go forward one frame. Oh. 8499. This needs to be in elsewhere. Start frame is going to be different footage this time. 8499 is the third one. Open clip. Big jump. And it's also behind his arm. And grab them all at once. Move them down. You can see the image is the same size as the last time. No huge problems involved here. And what I'll do is I'll take up some of the difference in these. This way. Getting real close to the screen here so I can clearly see past my own bad eyes. Select them all, keyframe them, go forward 1, 2, 3, 40 frames. Back 1. Current frame 8538 is where I want this start frame to be, just to double check 8538. Select them again, keyframe them. Go forward 1 frame. Let's set that one so that it doesn't get forgotten. Which one is next? Hang on a second. What was the last one? C. All right. D. And D will be at 8539. It's totally behind the arm there. I could mask it, still get the corners, but it probably isn't worth the effort. So what I'm going to do is, as I say, I'm going to bring it down off frame for a moment. Insert a keyframe. 1, 2, 3, 4, back a frame. Insert a keyframe. Go forward 1. Looking for image E. Image E at the current frame. Here we see it's back again, grab and bring it up. Since the shape stays the same most of the time, about 50% of it doesn't ever need to be updated that much. Right? Take up the slack. Take up the slack. All you keyframe it 10, 20, 30, 40 frames back one. I'll keyframe it again knowing that it should be the same. Forward a frame 8619. Looking for frame F. (8619). Woo. G to grab them all since they're still highlighted. Grab that one and move it over. Keyframe 1, 2, 3, 4, back one, keyframe, forward one. Looking for G. (8659). Doesn't need much changing, if at all. Maybe a little reframing there, but not much. Insert 1, 2, 3, 4, back one, insert again, forward one. Looking for H. I don't find this terribly time consuming or hard to do. Well, it's time consuming, yes, but it's not hard to do. It's starting to keep your head around it, to know what you're doing. And so it's survivable repetition. What I'm doing now is having a good look, because I don't think he changed the length or the zoom of the camera, so all it did was reframe a little. I hit I there, 1, 2, 3, 4, back one, hit I again. Go forward one and get the next one. I. 8739. Here's a fun one. Holding shift to fine tune it. You can see here where the extra control points allow me to make small tweak adjustments when I need to. Get just enough space to get around things like that and still color in the part of the image I want to. I'll hit I once, I don't need to do it again. So now F021 has got a series of animations applied to it, which will tell it where to be on screen for that sequence. Now, back to the video sequence editor. Monsieur, I have your number. Your number is a mask, and your mask, it is known. And this is your mask. Right here. Look how much nicer this looks than before when the whole screen was red. Not so nice. Now, ooh. Looks like I got the animation and masks off. Must have missed one. Ah, looks like I got the timing wrong. Go back to the movie clip editor for a second. This may be to do with the fact that I'm using a. I don't want to load the movie clip in here. If I load the whole thing, it'll be crazy, and it's already got the whole thing for a timeline. So I'm going to go back to the first frame that I animated. So the second one should come on right there. Save that. Making sure I got everything right here. I want this to jump. I don't want it to animated move. And I'm surprised the animated masks don't seem to be showing in the video strip editor right now. I wonder why. I wonder why. If there's a bug with animated masks, that would be really bad. And there may well be. Add, insert. Start frame, end frame. This is going to matter or it won't work. For start frame 8399, for the end frame, end frame 8798. So that it only has this period of time to exist in and be animated, but I think that's going to matter for the way this is passing straight through to the sequence editor. Let's see if this doesn't, yeah, it already looks better, doesn't it? At least it's jumping around now. Oh. Go back here, set that to add again. I'm going to set that to add again because I want this to be moving at the right moment in time. And if I have the time at the beginning, then I have the time at the beginning and make it longer. Like to about there. Add. Okay, so I'll do that for the entire length. And what I've been doing for animation purposes, I'm going to pick an arbitrary point to make it blink. Totally arbitrary point. I just selected one by scrolling along until I felt like now. And I'm going to use my graph editor to do it. It's currently at 73%. That's the glow that I get. I'm going to set a keyframe there, and then I'm going to pick a timing. 10 frames there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 17. It'll be on a 17 frame tick. Hit O. Hit home. I'll hit home here so I can see this curve that I just graphed. And now Shift E and make cyclic with an F modifier. And I could grab that on the Y 0.5. Grab Y negative 0.5. Now I'm going to Control Z this first. I like it with a quicker, I like it getting there faster, which means I'm going to make this go there faster. "17 frames not fast enough." 1, 2, 3, how about 14 current frame? And everything afterward goes spinning off down the same run. What's the last frame of the animation again? Whatever this frame is. 8799, yeah, cool. 8799, huh? Restrict frame range, end 8799, start 8399. And let the restriction hold. Now we can home it and see how it looks against the frame range. See how it picks up quickly? It'll already be up there. I can now grab those two on the X scale, say, and move them over so that it'll be smooth on the beginning. I should zap buddy, that'd be funny too. Do something with the guy over in the corner there. Didn't notice him up till now? Yeah, there he is. There's a guy walking in the door there. Which is the whole point of me having put these color bars down at the beginning. At the beginning of this this pass. And there's a cut here between that and the original footage. So what I might do is to overlay that image over this image after this cut. How will I do that? Well, when the cut occurs, which one is it? 22, right? Yeah. Oh, wrong one. New folder. No. AS stills 21, 22. I'll drag that in directly. This image is immediately before the black bar, and we'll have to go all the way up to there. So when the black bar occurs, this will be happening anyway. And what I'll do with this is set it to add for now. And I'll offset it. And what's the difference in the size? All right. 720 minus 538. 91. So I don't want there to be any sense of the drop off there. Just a little bit of a flip, maybe. Maybe 92 would have been better. Right? But I don't want this one to be too overpowering. So when that cuts in there, that's the amount of time we've got to fade this down. .5, 0.23. What if we crossfade it? What if we gamma cross it? Nice, I like this. I like the look of this. I go to there, hit that keyframe, that one as well. It can hold that afterward. Gamma cross is too much. Gamma cross is too much. How about add? Which case, adding enough. Multiplying with black, nothing. The other thing I could do here is to not try to blend them together so directly and to mask out a large part of this other image and overlay just the piece that I want. The gun, the scope, the guy looking, him. The rest of the image I don't need. So I may well do that and clear these keyframes for now, since I'm still kind of looking for the right way to put them together. What if I overdropped it? This image is underneath. That's the thing to remember. Gamma cross we were looking at. Not so bad when there's actually image. When there's black, it doesn't work at all. Oh, you can see the difference in cross right there. Difference in types of cross. Ooh, subtract comes out funny. Very interesting. Very interesting. Look, when you look at that, that is neat. Subtracting from black doesn't do anything. It's a skyline in the other image. That would work at about 80%. At about 80%, and then these areas are too bright. Top and the bottom of the image. What else could I do with it? I'm thinking another way. I'll leave that at full opacity for a moment. I'll hide it. Oh, it won't work. Never mind. Yeah, I think I'm turning the saturation down on this to 37. Could try to over multiply it, but look what happens. I could also like get rid of the overwashed areas a bit by changing the multiply value. Converting it to float will change the math so you can see how much it does. Geez, look how much that scope just pops out of both images laid one on the other. That works really well for me. I like that first. What I might do is to will it be better at 1? It may well even be better at 1. I'm going to try a modifier on this strip. I could color balance and also curves. Curves might be neat. I'm going to look at the curves back here first. I want a curve like this. But it'll be like that. And like that. I want the shadows to pop more. Or the silhouettes, I should say. With a lot of brighter areas. Cannot but wonder maybe they were planning to crossfade these scenes. Because of the way the compositing works here. Just look at the way they overlay with one another. Does this help? Yes or no? Well, let's have a look. Yeah, I could also, of course, her puke here. Her puke would be product placement as well, but yeah, that's a. I'm thinking aloud when I say that. I'm aware of the doubled nature. Oh, hear the crank, hear the creaking in the joints and stuff. Oh. Voice acting. Yeah, CNN joke. I need to start getting my CNN stuff. I am John. Yes, indeed. You got it. You got it. Not much air traffic. Hey, I hope things are good for you. John, I've been thinking a lot about the discussion you and I had about the other night. The discussion you and I had the other night regarding Q. It's been very helpful to me. I had a very similar discussion about a day later with Nun because of it. So we got right into the whole where do you cross from one boundary level to the other? Why do certain discussions have to occur and how do we have them? So I started by talking to him about how the different parts of Canada viewed Trudeau, our Prime Minister. I think that's probably my best avenue of attack right now. Turn it around on the ones who are anti-Trumpers in Canada. And say, yeah, you don't want to talk about Trudeau. That's why you're talking about Trump. Back to the movie, but I've been doing a whole bunch of things on the stream. I've been showing how to do various types of graphic work using Blender, and I'm basically doing a different one every scene. until I get a few ideas of what might work well. For example, here's pop up, pop off text. Very simple, with a drop shadow. And then comes an animated arrow. Here comes the next one, animated highlighted mask. For as long or as short as you want it. This one is a matte line, like a matte mask, which is reversed. This is going to be a text card. I'm going to do that last. This one shows what you do when you, or what I can do when I play with the image values, because I'm interested in what's overexposed and what's underexposed. What's left over and why they're so much brighter than everything else. I think it will actually. I think it will do that. That's why I was asking him about it. But one of the things I've determined is I'm going to start saying this more, because it's notoriously easy to piss off, to cross or piss off. I think it will do that. I think it'll change some people's minds about how to view Trudeau's involvement. The reason I knew the document would trip None as well, the thing that I showed him, not the Q-doc stuff, but some other thing. It wasn't at all to do with it isn't talked about directly in Q, in different posts. It's got around sideways, but in Canada, we're intensely aware of Trudeau's relationship to the Aga Khan. The Aga Khan is as much a going concern as the House of, which is classically where people get into the whole, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. It's a right-wing conspiracy theory because you said those words. That's how they look at it, right? That's where they turn their head off. I'm going to take a short break, but it won't be long. I've been sitting on my ass for over an hour. I got music ready to go in the background too. I'll get it ready before I go tromping off down over the stairs.
Joe, I don't know how I done it now. I got 2 6 strings in the last 6 months. First one is a 3/4 length. It's for use in busking. I usually busk on the street. So it's for ice fishing is the way I look at it now. I consider busking to be fishing anyway. But this short string banjo, the short neck one, that's for ice fishing. Whereas this new one, this will never go outside in the wintertime. This is for fly fishing. If you understand me? Like the other one is ice fishing, but this motherfucker is fly, okay? Lots of salmon. This next one is it's an original lyrics with an old tune. I got rid of all the sectarian violence in the old tune. Because I don't like sectarian violence. Well, my name's Abel Organ, I'm from Grandma Brent. And for 45 years there I got myself fed. I was forced out of fishing back in 92. And I didn't know then what the hell I would do. Fate had arranged another fine turn with the old timely passing of the old copy urn. Who left me a letter, some books and a suit. And with that pickle me free and all wooden fruit. considered a life in the arts. With the boys in the lawn playing darts, and here I can pleasure my whole life away. With the Chinese a tune that the four kids still play. I'll never know trouble nor ill-favored dream, or lose all I got on a pyramid scheme. A homeless old tinker wouldn't marry a cute, so long as I cherish this old wooden flute. Bye-bye, sectarian violence. Get the fuck out of here. Yay! That was my plan. This is from a movie. See if you know the movie. Arizona moon keeps shining. I gotta wait till these boys are done. Well, Arizona moon keeps shining on the desert skies above. You know pretty soon there'll be a moon that's gonna shine its way back to the one you love. The blue shadows on the train. Little cowboy, close your eyes and dream. Although the doggies are running around, although your work is done, close your eyes and dream, little pal. Dream of
Bye-bye. Open the QAnon actions could affect many things globally in the world right now. Optimism. Yeah, me too. I wonder though, what is the motivation of it? And that's what I'm waiting to see now, which is why I say being aware of that part of the value. Which is not a religious value at all. If you know what I mean. It is and it isn't. That's where the religious nature comes from. Or there's another way of looking at it. That's where the religious power of his statements comes from. It's not from anything else. I've got to go back over one part of the document too, because I noticed that the Q character drew special attention to one thing that he posted, which was at one point there was a usage of the Lord's Prayer, but it was a very specific usage, and he drew attention to the fact that it was a specific version of the prayer for whatever reason. My own cultural background is such that I recognized it's such that I recognized the two different versions when he mentioned it. I could tell what he meant. The way I look at it, though, is that, how to put it? How would I put this? The way that I look at it is because of my cultural heritage. That's what I was trying to say. Which is, to convert it to American terms, Episcopalian. In the Episcopalian forms of service, there's two different types of Lord's Prayer. Yeah, one is from the Gospel of Mark, one is from the Gospel of Matthew or something, or Luke. There's two different usages of the prayer in two different Gospels. The prayer book in the Episcopalian or the Anglican or the Church of England sense uses both in different places. I'm not sure how that works for Catholics, but it's probably much the same thing, because the way that Catholicism turned into the Church of England and then Anglicans or Episcopalians. I'm not quite sure what other Protestants do, if they use both like that or if they only use one. So it's talking about Catholicism, but in a very roundabout way. I also wondered if he meant the version was the King James version, which would also make sense. And if that is the case, it's the one from the Gospel of Mark, I think. Unless I'm sadly mistaken. Here's an interesting effect that I was showing off earlier. I can get a glow around the people, I can get a glow around the cross, and I can get a glow around his head, all at different tick rates. Use the Lord's Prayer to show what the prayer was, but then Q knew the Pope wanted to change that prayer. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that the Pope was, like I said, this is a Catholic doctrinal matter, which goes back before the Protestant Reformation occurred. Anglicans still preserve this doctrinal difference in their prayer book. The Episcopalians have both. The Church of England has both. And when I say it has both, lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil is where one ends. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory is the other version. That's the version which was removed. I wondered if it was about Catholicism or not. Seemed to be the reference. Seemed to be what he was talking about to me when I thought about it. I gotta go digging for more resources here. Your Rich Evans quote. Yeah, I know what that one's going to be. This one. This was a fun one I did last night. Animated text. Using it to show that he has knowledge very few people knew. Shows his knowledge does give people a clue the Q thing is real. Yeah, but very few people knew that. I mean, anyone who's on the inside of the Catholic system, I'll call it system for now. I think of it as cult. Anyone's on the inside of the Catholic culture is aware of this problem. That's 1 billion people. So is he essentially proselytizing to them to show that he knows, to this 1 billion, I understand what you're thinking? Maybe, that I can buy. Excuse me. Knew the Pope was going to announce that he wanted to change the prayer. Yeah. So that was a signal in advance of the announcement. I get you. That's the one thing that very few people would have known, that the announcement was coming into play, because he probably had access to a press release to that effect or some other kind of diplomatic access. I agree. Yes. Yeah, I follow. I follow your argument. It's the timing of the... Yeah, I follow. Yeah. Seems like there's more and more loose talk. I don't know a bit better to say it than that. But things like Jesuits ever since. The distrust in the Jesuits in particular. The Jesuits have access to the same billion people that the Pope does. That's what I mean. At this moment in time, he happens to be a Jesuit, but even if there weren't a Pope that was a Jesuit, that would be true. They keep having fun. Sure, there's, yeah. Ever heard of the World Council of Churches? They've been working very hard. They've been working for years with the UN, working for years with and within the UN for an ecumenical solution to cross-cultural tensions. It's pretty high in some with some religions though, the tensions. Basically the religious version of the UN. I still find it funny though when some people, I've seen it in years past, people will post up things about, I don't know how to put it. Put up things during the holiday season to the effect that everybody understands God in their own way. And I'm like, you know what? Some people don't understand that theology thing at all. And they don't make any secret of it, and they don't feel the need to bow to it as a result. That's the thing that atheists don't have, is a theology. And that's what makes them angry. Not the atheists, I mean. The theology is not meant to make sense. Never was. That's my contention. You hear people talking about the heaven and the difference between heaven and hell, or heaven and earth for that matter. I think this is a funny little text sequence here. I had to do a specific animation to make it work, but it works with a lot of popping, disappearing, and then animated sections. Not the best written script in the world, American Sniper. Do you find it much of a culture shock between the Methodist and the Catholic expression? Because for me, as an Anglican or an Episcopalian, I could jump into a Catholic service and not even use the prayer book. I'd have to look at the songbook, probably be about it. I could do the rest of it. It's so similar. But the other Protestant faiths, they're quite different in the way that they go about things. I don't miss it. I don't miss most of it. There's things that I think the thing I'll probably miss the most, but it isn't my mind. It's the fellowship which comes with the community. That's mainly what I think anybody does it. Goes to church. The fellowship is the thing which they think they gotta, to some degree, they think they've got a lockdown on that concept. They don't. The weirdest church I've been to in years was one that uses the name Anonymous publicly. It was at that particular place that I realized, my God, all of these groups are segregated by religion. Couldn't believe it. I didn't think that was possible. Or it hadn't occurred to me. I wasn't a fan of the previous pope neither. I can't think of it. All the hot chicks were in the Episcopalian. Yeah, Catholics go trolling in the Episcopal. I can understand that too. There's I got a real. I'm tempted. I'm tempted sideways. Do I have pictures which I can find quickly? I'll do it this way. I'm going to get Blender out of memory. This Pope is much worse. Imagine, to say that when Ratzinger was the previous Pope, that's just... how do you say it, right? I'm going to show you a little bit of the places where I've lived in my time. But first, do I get access to my maps through here? I think I do. My places. Let me see whether or not it still tracks my maps. It does. I've got a bunch of places marked on the map here. And I've got Q notes done up for each of these things as well, so I don't really need, there's 105 of these bastards. Will that turn it off? No. Oh, it does. Hang on. I'll do that again. My places, maps. That one, yep. Here's some interesting facts of the geography. Here's the first one. Avalon Peninsula. Purely fantastic name scheme going on here. The Avalon Peninsula. That's the name of this region. This is the area most densely populated. All modern amenities. Shopping malls, major international airport. Seat of provincial government in here. They call Avalon North. It's north of this line. Okay? If I click the line, the orange-green line. Ha! Newfie sense of humor distinction. The red line above demarks the orange-green line. Everything south of that line is predominantly Catholic. Everything north of that line is Protestant with Catholic mixed in. The heavier Catholic stuff shaken up and into the mix is the way I've got it put here. The heavier Catholic stuff shaken up and into the mix, but yet you don't find much orange south of the line in the green region. Sound familiar? Newfoundland has a history of non-violent resolution to conflict. There's posts about this on my live journal, vis-a-vis gravity. More to be said about it too. The island is famous as a test population for studies due to the isolation. For example, there is a variant of Irish dialects spoken only here now, and the old country sends people here to learn them. Similarly, genetic variants for hardiness and sickness are in the population. One such is diabetes, wild kind of epigenetically selected trait that seems to be selected for during times of famine. Newfoundland did not suffer much hardship until the First World War. It also crashed economically in the 1930s and surrendered responsible government back to the Brits until joining Canada in 1949. Some of us still want to be free. I got all kinds of places marked. Funny place names. Dildo. Dildo's right there. Excuse me. This one, Argentia, second landing place for the Channel Ferry System. This is also a World War II U.S. base, naval outpost. FDR and Churchill met in this bay in 1942. The Atlantic Conference. These are the places I lived in when I was a kid. Down this way. There's some really neat features of these harbors. Is it cold there in the winter? Yes, it can be, but right now it is above freezing and has been since the storm ended. There was a big storm that blew through the region from the south up our way. And after the storm was over, it went up to 10 above freezing. It is nice in the summertime. English Harbor West, you can see the way that the harbor is shaped. It's like a long, almost horseshoe shaped. That's Mozambique. This one is English Harbor West. This whole region is called English Harbor West. This is the harbor I grew up in. It's even more horseshoe shaped. Dad took a job here in 1980 with a school board. My mother was a teacher. Our house pretty much where that pin is. Our house was pretty much where that pin is. Mom and Dad bought it and renovated it like a pair of hobbits. We owned a large plot of land that backed onto a hill where you could pick blueberries and lie in the heather that smells sweeter than anything else on earth in the summer and fall. Here's how the harbor breaks down. There's a division of culture somewhere along this line where the people on the end of the point where there's a little more space, they're Protestant and the Catholic are in here. Many of the Catholics have the same last name. Many of them. Conagra Peninsula. One of these places is called St. Jack's, I believe is this one. That is predominantly Catholic. Hardly anything else but. Bellorum up here. A mixture of both. So all other areas of the province, you'll find the Catholics and the Protestants living in close proximity, but still partly segregated. There's an even more pronounced case of it. This is insanity, but this is the way that it works. Up here, this is beautiful. First time I saw this and it was driving down the road, I almost freaked. Quantum uncertainty. I had a real neat moment of exploding noema in this stretch of the road when I first traveled it. The reason is you pass a road sign for Round Harbor to the south several minutes before another road sign for Harbor Round to the north. I thought I passed through a kind of time warp or something for a few minutes. The change of the side of the road was most disorienting and funny. Harbor Round, Round Harbor. One of them is Catholic, one of them is Protestant and Catholic. Tilt Cove, site of mining operations. La Scie, French for La Saw, the saw. And this is the DMZ, one of the few areas of the province where I will take care identifying myself in the future. The DMZ. These are the actually quite lovely environs of the relatively recent X. This means that there is a better than fair chance I will run into someone who knows me from third or fourth hand knowledge. A much more compelling examination of degrees of separation than Kevin Bacon style. Bacon. I'll leave enough of that one alone. Don't need to say any more about that one, hey? Pretty parts of the province. Gander Bay, scenery most brilliant. The land of the silver birch. The best time is in the summertime. The fishing in this region is unreal. The growth, the area for growing vegetables is insane. And the type of vegetables you can grow and how big they'll get. Most areas of the province that are settled are in the outside region, not the interior. Terra Nova Incognitus. This is about the only part of the island I have not explored, although I'm pretty much ready to do so. I got the knowledge and the ability, I think, to be able to do so. By sight. The island was once populated by an indigenous race called the Beothuk, who are noted for their displays of red ochre as body paint. Often wanted to spend some quality time exploring in here. Mostly water. You can pass huge regions by water alone, all the way down via one river system or another, and this lake goes out through Corner Brook. Oh, this one up here also does through Deer Lake. Stunning scenery, small city wedged in a fjord. Captain Cook was here. And a mountain range on that side of her. They got hit hard with a snowstorm. I think some of these regions are still without power. It's not funny, but it's seasonal. Iceberg, you're asking how cold it is, how nice it is in the summer. Iceberg Alley, one of the many lovely places to view icebergs in Wales in the summertime. The waters offshore are teeming with both. I'm going to make this bigger so I can read it. Also fairly cold northern current, not unlike Northern Ireland and Scotland gets. Very much like Scotland was how I found it. When I went to Scotland, that's how I thought of it. It was like, wow, it's a lot like home. Cape Friels and features of a huge area of fine white sand beaches. Cape Friels and Windmill Bight are all in this region. Cape Friels is here. Lumsden's up here. These are all sand beaches in this region. Windmill Bight right here. I'll turn this over to satellite view so you can see it. Sand Bay. And this picks up from Iceberg Alley. Turn on satellite view if you're not already. A reminder, right? Always thinking ahead, that Larry. See whether or not this still works. This may be gone. See if this still works. If it does, hey, even better. Page no longer available. I'll go looking for it later. Government does track it. That's what they call the region, Iceberg Alley. So everything on that side of the island sees icebergs from April through June. They come cruising down this way. I see them offshore from the city right here, going that way. So they got what they call the Labrador Current, flows down south, cold water with the ice. And the Gulf Stream comes up this way, creating huge fog banks all along here. The southern part of the island never freezes, very, very rarely. I've never seen ice in any harbor I've lived in down here. But I lived in this part of the island before moving to this part of the island. This is insanely beautiful in the fall. Clarenville, we moved here in 1989. Bergen's Cove. My mother at that time served as a parish priest here, but this is one of 6 points in that parish. She had to drive all over the place. Tens of thousands of kilometers per year. Another remarkable fact about here, an American SAC B-36 crashed here. Strategic Air Command B-36 crashed at this location. Also a link to Wikipedia there, but into a mountain here and burned. I believe it was magnesium in the structure of the plane, so it burned. It literally burned. I was exploring the wreck with a troop of scouts on a day that a crew from search and rescue did a retrieval of one of the remaining props, which was deep in a bog hole. They lifted it out with a Chinook. It was a Canadian Chinook, but it was American troops aboard of her. B-36 was cool because they had both pusher props and jet engines, and oh yeah, nukes. I don't think you can see much from space about it, but it's right about here. I remember where I had to hike up to see it, but it was at the top of this rise. There was a pond at the bottom of the hill, and then a couple of bog holes on either side. And this area is all like a flooded river region. We came down over the hill here, went up over the hill here. So it's up here somewhere. Tail section is still there, and the cockpit is still there, and everything else gone because it was made of magnesium. I want Map Man. Trinity, the artsy-fartsy summer folk festival heart of the island, right there. Also never gone there for the plays. They also had a train attraction, an old trunk line servicing Bonavista passed through here, a train loop to help it gain elevation, and a history of movie work. Check out Random Passage for the name of the movie. The old rail line travels up through here and uses the geography to get several hundred feet in elevation. Thorburn Lake, special place. This is frequently used as an air base for float planes. Yeah, in fact, it's an air base for float planes. Waypoint of a theoretical skidoo trip from Clarenville towards Point West. You follow the old railway bed. So if you left from here, you can travel this whole distance following the railway line. And when you do, the next point inland is in here, and you're nowhere near civilization when you're following the rail bed. And it crosses, I guess, pretty much open land all the way up to here, past Gambo Pond. I think it might be picking it up down there by then. Gambo Pond is also known as 24 Mile Pond. Apparently only 23.5 miles long though, if you believe that. I don't know if I believe that one. Branch. Lots of neat names down around here. Bay Bulls, local tourist hole for whale and bird watching tours. Captain Wayne's Marine Excursions. on the borderline, hey? A little bit north of that, really, the line. The Goulds for sure. Getting down here, practically all Catholic. Parker's Cove. Bay Largent. Here's an interesting one. The province used to be populated by French-speaking people. The English and the French fought over it for a large number of years until basically 1713, Treaty of Utrecht. I think that's right. The Treaty of Utrecht gave the French Saint Pierre and Miquelon. Still is France. Bay Largent. Literally translated bag of silver or bay of silver. This is drawled out with the most nasal of accents you cannot imagine the likes of. Bay Largent. Do not fear learning the dulcimer tones of any backwoods American state as compared to some of the things continually perpetuated upon the English language along the south coast, which gives my soul a lift upon remembering it. Take that, Churchill, and stuff it in your fucking cigar. You can catch a coastal ferry service from here and then make one's way along the south coast towards Port aux Basques, one community at a time. The real clincher is you need to cover road miles on the other side of some of the ferries. There were 3 coastal ferries in operation for foot traffic and freight. I missed that kind of service, but population has truly dwindled. Redistribution of population in the island is heavily centered towards St. John's and the Avalon Peninsula. So to cross, you get across here, I think it's the Pools Cove. You pick up a road and have to travel down here to pick up the next boat. You see the blue line there. Start here to go to Galtas, McCallum. Is there a stop there? That happens to be my last name, but that's not where my family's from. Another family. Francois, another French name. Rencontre West, French name. Cape La Hune, French name. My favorite one. I don't know if you recognize that or if you know any French, but you can look that up if you want, and that's a good one. It gives you an idea of just how high the geography is here. Not Lune. Lune is the moon. Grey River is the next stop after Francois, and then this set of islands, which is where my part of my family is from. So I know the region down this end just as well as a little bit better even because it's less of it than this end. I spent some years in here. This isn't accessible normally by road. You have to go in off of here. It's a region which is designated no hunting, essentially, due to the watershed. The areas that are marked for no hunting, therefore there shouldn't be any overhunting in the rest of the regions, but all of these have big hunting regions attached to them. One of them's up here. You see how there's a place marked, but there is no obvious link to it? That's the railway line. Goes through to Howley. And gaff topsails is yet another nautical reference. Funny, I'm ready for like the whole toured guide thing. Gaff topsails is like an English language equiv to the last one I marked down. In the sense that one's referring to the sails, the other is referring to another part of the ship. But that's practically the highest elevation in the province. I think it's the highest elevation for the train would be gained past this. This is like a, how to put it, mostly tundra, rises up to tundra. All down here and all along here as well. So from space, if I look at the region that I'm from, you can see all kinds of neat things in the geography of the region from the last ice age or from ice ages past. For example, in this watershed, only 2 summers ago there was a flood which came through here but was caused further inland. And when the flood passed through here, it was throwing boulders and everything else through this river. Changed the course of part of the river down here. And people were living in cabins in the region, so they were witnessing it happen with their video phones, right? Where there's clearly rocks marked like this, these are highland regions, and these are bogland regions between the peaks that are at higher elevation than sea level, way higher. So the bog holes which are filling up, these are peat moss areas. Farther north you go, the lower in elevation you generally go. So this main highway cuts across this mountain range essentially. Or it's not a mountain range, but it's a plateau, like a tundra plateau at the latitude that we're at. The elevation gives it the character of something much farther north, but at sea level. Tundra, caribou region, big caribou region, and a local population. Just a little bit farther north and you can see where the watershed has changed direction. Glaciation, turn on satellite view. Yeah, there are visible scores left in the stones on the land, left by as glaciers roll over it. And cottage country, or what passes for it in the ass end of nowhere. Let's see if we can't see it after all. Fine. Oh yeah, you can. Cottage country. That is about 90 kilometers along the length of the road. And it's 180 in total. So the locals down here go up here to get away from it all. Abitibi Road, Civic Highway turns south here. But there's a logging road that is used by many people in Ramia and Banjo here, goes off this way. And it cuts more directly eastward. You can follow this road through the heart of the island to Buckins, saving several hours off the trip to Grand Falls and points eastward. You travel along an old logging road this way. You need a pickup truck to really do it well. To the south, road begins to gain elevation out of the wetlands that make up most of the area. You can see where the land begins to rise like Scottish Highlands about 30 minutes south of here. This is exactly like going uphill in Scotland at higher, well, about the same elevation. Latitude elevation, I mean. Inclination. Wow, I don't see them marking the road there. Wonder why. Maybe that's verboten knowledge right about now. But yeah, there's a road right here. And it's an old logging road. And then a larger highway which runs back that way. I think it might even go all the way up here. Millertown and Buckins Junction, they definitely got a road from Badger. So yeah, you go straight through the Badger. And then you're in Grand Falls. Exploits River runs through here. There are two sets of falls, one in the community, the other further eastward in Bishop's Falls. And out here, I keep finding time to talk about this one. Botwood Flying Boat Museum. Because this was a flying boat base in the Second World War. You can still see a PBY, look. Not the only one like that in Ireland. I mean, I'm not talking about PBY either. I mean, aircraft on display that are large. Where is that other one? The other really nice one. Gander's got a couple. But down here, woman says she have me, I'm off to Arbor Grace. This thing has got two really cool objects, leftover objects that aren't going to move again. This is a really good scale image for comparison. Spirit of Harbor Grace is a DC-3, a Goonie bird, and this an old ship of the Alphabet Fleet. Of the Alphabet Fleet. I'll type that out just in case you didn't get me. Alphabet Fleet. Built in Scotland, I believe. Practically the last one still surviving, and it's grounded there, and it doesn't move, and it ain't moving again. It's grounded where it is. It's starting to disintegrate pretty bad though. Spirit of Harbor Grace, however, looks over at it, and it's this DC-3 Goonie bird. 17 photos of her. I haven't taken any of these. That's the Kyle. In the region. There's the Kyle again, low tide. Bog standard ship size, the whole 9 yards for the time, and it's prior to World War II. Prior and during and after. Local actor there, local actor, not the real thing. I mean, real thing, just dressed up for the part. Wow, more than one of them. More of the Kyle there than of the bird. Yeah, Irving Oil right next to it, so I guess we know who owns the property. Storm surge warning, Newfoundland. I was expecting that. It's not the only boat here that we got another boat that's been serving a long time here from Scotland. It happens to be a boat that I know really well because I'm used to the ferry service. Ferries come over from here to a little region. And the ferry between here and here sometimes is one that was built in Scotland. Oh, I've never tried to do this, but what would happen if, did they ever get out there with Google? Oh my God. You're shitting me. Yeah, I didn't think so. I can't get down to ground level here. You see the waves in the water. Because it's open ocean to the south. This thing over here is called Columbier. They call it Columby. The feature, I mean. And every community along the coast in the region has another feature called Columbier. The same thing. So it might be a holdover from when the French were the prime movers in the region. That's where my grandmother is from. Badelou French of Wolf. Cape Loon, Francois. I'll tell you, right? It's pretty small, man. It's pretty small. A lot of people sail in there with sailboats. They stop in on the way. They only go in here rather than go to the mainland island. They stop here and then they keep going, sailing around. There's a fairly large marina in this bay. And otherwise you're flying in Stephenville or Deer Lake and chartering a local bush plane to go in here. Or on this end of the island you go this far before chartering a plane going in the same region. There's a lot of watershed in here. You can spend weeks going through here with a canoe. So much of it weathering, so much of it glaciation. Is that a fault line or not, right? Some of it is, some of it isn't. Coolest part of the province really isn't the Newfoundland part, I think. It's not only Newfoundland's too far south to be really cool. Ha ha ha, like verbal joke, but up here I was taken on a skidoo trip here in Rigolette one time. It was in the winter. I don't know when they got the satellite from up here. It looks like summertime. And I'm not sure which way we went to wherever the animals were, but it seems to me like we went out that way. On the sea ice, on skidoos. It was all frozen up solid. Like snow everywhere. Everybody was on skidoos. There was no cars, no roads. No roads to the community, but cars in the community. If you can imagine that, they've had cars shipped here. But you can see how far the road goes. Okay? Very, very short distances required for road. But yet roads throughout the community, vehicles buried under snow waiting for the spring to come so they could drive them again. Skidoos otherwise. So we left the community on sea ice and we came down this way. And this is all, like I say, tundra. Same as I'd known from my own region growing up. This looks like winter. And I don't know if we went in on this pond or if we came around this edge and went down a different way. But we saw the caribou. It must have been this way. Lower elevation, so there's more of a grade there. I thought it was trees. I thought it were trees first. But this was caribou. Like up on the edge, snow-covered regions standing up. I thought it was trees. Thousands of caribou. On the way back in to Rigolette, we came across a guy on a skidoo, and he was tugging we call a comatic behind. I don't know if you ever heard that word before. Comatic. That's in common usage down here. Define comatic. A rawhide lash sledge with wooden crossbars and runners. Adapted since by many non-Inuit as well. That is definitely true. He was tugging a comatic behind him. And on this comatic, he had this fucking wolf. And the wolf was huge. And you could see where he'd shot it. It hadn't been trapped. It had been shot dead. And he was taking the pelt back, right? Oh, what a region. Beautiful. Isolated as fuck. Like, I've never seen the Northern Lights like anywhere other than here, though. You drive up out of town on a skidoo. The airport doesn't operate at night. It's only in the daytime. The planes are landing in the winter on skis. And they only use short takeoff and landing de Havillands, right? Very, very short landing path required, a bit of distance required to slow down. So you park your skidoo up here and you look out